Hello everyone, Daniel here with PagePerfect, and today I'm going to walk you through the choice for the best WordPress host you could choose for your small local business website. There are a lot of things to consider in the WordPress hosting space. Of course, there's price, there's also speed, there's also support, but it also depends on what size of a site you have, like how much traffic it's getting, and if it's using dynamic features or not. Dynamic features are going to include things like the ability for the public to log into your site, or if you need an employee portal for clients to log into your site. If people need to be able to add public posts or listings to your site. If your site needs to bring in real estate IDX listings to your site. Those are all dynamic features. Even using WooCommerce for e-commerce checkout on a WordPress site is a dynamic functionality. And with all of those dynamic features, the customer is interacting not only with the front end of your website, but the back end, the database of your website. So in this video, we are actually going to feature WordPress hosting for static WordPress sites. And that's going to be 90% of the websites out there for small local businesses don't need any of those dynamic features. And therefore, there's a lot to gain, and you're going to learn a lot in this short video. So with that in mind, let's get going. So first, we want to look at what you experience in a typical WordPress setup. If you already have a website, you're going to be used to this already. If not, and you're surveying the potential of using WordPress for your small business, you're going to want to see this. I'm going to see if I can steer you in the direction of a static site. So first, let's look at a typical WordPress setup and what you would encounter there. If you already have a small business site on WordPress, you're going to already know all of these things. But if you're just getting into the WordPress space and you're considering it, then these are the things you're definitely going to go through, and this is going to be a learning curve for you. And so this is why I'm going to steer you towards a specific static host. So first, let's talk about what you'll expect in a typical WordPress setup. You're going to have a cheap shared host. And this is going to be a host like GoDaddy. It could be HostGator, Bluehost. Those are the typical long-standing ones. There are better ones out there that everyone recommends, partially because of their affiliate income that they provide. Those are going to be InMotion hosting, A2 hosting. I believe SitePress is one. I might be getting that wrong right now. But those are your typical cheap shared hosting. Within all of these hosting providers, there is something called cPanel. And I'm going to show you right now what that looks like and why really you don't even want to be in there. All right, so right now I'm going to give you an example using 5Cloud Host. This is another one of those cheap shared hosting platforms. And you'll see here, of course, this really is just the host's dashboard where you add services or take them away, where you update your billing and where you take it away, and where you get customer support. However, within every one of these types of shared hosting accounts for WordPress websites, there is a cPanel. And so when you click Login to cPanel, if I can click it, you're going to see something like this. And so there's all of these little details for all of the things that you can do to manage your own hosting environment. I don't know about you, but if you're a small business trying to get your website set up, this looks like a nightmare, right? This is like so technical. There's so much that you can do, and you're wondering, do I have to go into every one of these things and mess with it? There's a lot to consider here. And so what you're going to have to do in that typical environment is install WordPress. You're going to be asked for, of course, what do you want your username and password to be? And you also have to enter in what's the database name, user ID, and password. I don't know about you, but the first time I encountered this, I was like, whoa, I'm not prepared to be messing with a database. I just want to access the front end of a website so I can start designing the thing. So that is no fun. Now, other things that you're going to encounter in a typical WordPress setup is you're going to have to continually update it. And that's because WordPress updates run off of three things. We're going to get to those in just a second. The next thing you will definitely encounter with a typical WordPress setup is the maintenance of that site. And I'm telling you, everyone, since the beginning with WordPress until today, if they're not using a static WordPress host, they have to deal with this. So number one, you have to update WordPress core. WordPress itself is like an operating system for a website, and so it receives updates on a regular basis. Second, every WordPress site is utilizing some sort of theme, and so that will be updated by its developer at some regular basis. And finally, your WordPress site, what makes WordPress so helpful is that it's so extensive that you can add so many plugins to enhance the features of your site. But every one of those plugins is made by different developers, and therefore they update their plugins at different intervals. What does this mean for you? Well, what it means is if you don't update these things, then you're going to run into a lot of security problems. And we're going to look at that in the next slide. But assuming you want to avoid those, you're going to try updating all of these items. However, they don't always play well together. So you might update WordPress core, and that might break your theme and or your plugins. Or you might update a plugin, and it just conflicts with another plugin. So there's a lot of trial and error that has to happen here to update your site in a way that doesn't break the site. Moving on to security that I just was talking about, if you do not maintain your WordPress site and keep everything updated, then you will create tons of security vulnerabilities. Because WordPress is the most prolific website building platform on the market for at least a decade, it has the most amount of hackers trying to hack into it. And hackers know which outdated themes and plugins create vulnerabilities on websites. And then they have software that can go out and find those websites that are using those plugins to try to exploit the vulnerability and get on the back end of your website. So you want to make sure that your website is not going to be hacked. Additionally, your cPanel includes a login and typically includes email accounts and multiple websites. And so it's an area that hackers can be attacked. I actually have a client who we're doing their SEO for right now. We do not manage and host their website. Their cPanel is now completely hacked, and they're trying to work through getting that all cleaned up. And the last thing that you'll expect with WordPress sites typically is going to be your forms, contact forms, as well as comment forms are going to be spammed a lot. And that's because most WordPress sites are using the same top 3 developers for their contact forms. And so again, spammers try to isolate and target websites that are using those popular form plugins. All right, the last thing we're going to talk about, what you're going to experience as a headache in a typical WordPress hosting environment, are page speed issues. Number one, you've probably purchased the cheapest shared host possible, and so you're not having any server caching. And so that means every time your website's loaded, it is pulling, like the database and the back end of that website have to make calculations to serve up the right page to the user. Now, there are caching plugins that are going to be recommended. There's a lot of them. We use them on some of our clients' sites who have dynamic WordPress websites, and that's going to help. But both with the server caching, we're going to not use a cheap shared host. We're going to use a premium WordPress hosting environment to enable varnish caching and things like that to speed up the server. And then secondly, we're going to be using caching plugins on that site to make sure that the pages load as fast as possible. Lastly, we're going to run all of the photos and files through a content delivery network, otherwise known as a CDN, which also provides caching. What does this mean to you? Can you do it? Maybe, but it's very technical. It's very time consuming. It takes a lot of trial and error to see how far you can push the caching without breaking your site. So at this point, I want to introduce you to the best WordPress hosting environment you could imagine for a small local business that is not needing all of those dynamic features that a WordPress site offers. This is going to offer you a much easier user interface. There are going to be no updates required to your WordPress core, to your theme, or to your plugin. All 3 of those you could leave in as if it's a time capsule from 3 years ago, and your WordPress site is going to work just as well, and there are going to be no security issues. With that in mind, it is hacker-proof. There's no way on the front end of this website that users can try to interact with the database. They cannot try to hack the login or a plugin or anything like that, because it's literally a static site being served as if it was hand-coded, hard-coded HTML and CSS. Finally, there's going to be greatly reduced spam because we're not using those top plugins for contact forms and comment forms on WordPress. And so those prolific spammers, their software is just going to glaze right over when they try spamming your site. Now, it can still be manually spammed, but we're talking about the spammers at scale. Also, you're going to have much faster page speed times. I'm going to explain why in a minute, but basically this provider is already got CDN built in, so it's going to work great. And lastly, it's very affordable. In fact, your experience on the front end and the back end managing the site is going to be as if you're paying for a premium WordPress virtual private server, and yet you're going to be paying the prices of a cheap shared host. So with all of that set up to kind of whet your appetite, I want to introduce HardyPress. HardyPress is a static WordPress host that I came across in the past 12 months. And I've been moving as many of our clients over to HardyPress as possible. By the time you see this video, I may or may not be part of an affiliate program with them. And if so, there will be a link below and you can click that to explore their site and sign up. And yes, I would get a kickback for that. However, that's not why I'm showing to you. In fact, literally right now while I'm making this video, I have no affiliate association with them. I don't even know if they have an affiliate program. All of that to say, this is just who I use, and it is an awesome experience, and it is absolutely the best for a local small business. So I want to show you every one of those 6 points that I have up there. So here we have the HardyPress homepage, and as you can see, they're advertising zero maintenance on the back end. It's serverless, meaning the users on your site never interact with the server. It's all just a static website they're seeing, which makes it unbreakable and also makes it so much faster. You can read a little bit about it here. One of the nuances that they offer is actually support for contact form plugin. And if you use that, you can stick with it. However, you still have to mitigate the spamming issue since that is one of the most prolific contact form plugins. If we look at the features, you can see here that WordPress actually gets shut down after 15 minutes of inactivity. So you're still going to have the WordPress dashboard. I'm going to show you that in a minute. You're still going to have access to all the plugins that you want to use unless they're dynamic type of plugins. But the nice thing here for security is that WordPress gets shut down, and that's why it's hacker-proof. It's serverless technology. They use a global content delivery network. You get the free HTTPS or SSL certificate included. You have a staging environment where you can make changes and not affect the live content. You're going to love that feature in a second. This is talking about Contact Form 7. One of the dynamic features of a WordPress website typically is that ability to search the WordPress website to pull up everything related to that search. And what they're highlighting here is they already have a built-in functionality for that, so you don't lose that ability on your site. Again, this is maintenance free. You don't have to do any updating on the WordPress core, on the theme, or the plugins. You get a full year of backups. I can't even stress this enough. Most people, when they start their WordPress journey, totally overlook the need to back up their site daily and to have at least a month of backups so that if the site gets hacked or if you do something on the back end that messes up the front end, you can always restore the working site. Look at what they have included at no extra cost. And then finally, they're saying no lock-in. Basically, you can downgrade at any time. So it's a fantastic thing. I want to show you the inside of this before we get to the pricing. So here we're looking at the back end of HardyPress where I'm logged into my account, and we're looking at a specific site that I've titled Blueprint. And so this right now is essentially a fully blank site. It just happens to have plugins that I've installed and activated on it, which is what I use every time I start a new website for a customer. And what you're going to see here is the ability to log into WordPress. And what that's going to do is it's going to turn WordPress on. It's going to be a backdoor where we get to utilize the whole WordPress dashboard experience, install plugins, themes, make changes to the site, etc. But after 15 minutes of inactivity, it automatically turns off. You can also manually turn it off when you're done working. There are, of course, links here to log in. You can actually still access the site via SFTP, File Transfer Protocol. You can also access the database if you need to. On this page, we're looking at the deploys. To deploy the site means you are publishing it from that WordPress dynamic experience that turns off and on. You're publishing it to a static site. Backups. Every time you create a deploy of the site is already backed up, and so you can always restore a backup. Plugins. You can actually see here from the back end which plugins are installed, which ones are active versus inactive, and if they happen to know that it is compatible, they've already checked it with HardyPress, it'll say that. If it says in review, it basically means they haven't checked it. If it says that it's incompatible, then obviously it won't work. That it would be a dynamic-based plugin that's not going to work on this site. And lastly, there are settings that can be seen here, and the quick and easy ability to change which PHP version you're using, caching settings, deploy settings, contact form settings. You can clone the site, you can destroy the site. So with all that in mind, let's go ahead and turn this on, and we will see what it looks like to log in to a HardyPress WordPress site. There we have it. So it took less than 30 seconds to turn this on, and now I can log in to this website. What you see here is the very famous back end of WordPress. This is the WordPress admin dashboard, and everything is the same except for one tiny addition, and that's up here at the top that says Publish Changes. So the way that this system works is we have turned on WordPress temporarily to make changes. However, it's completely separate from the public-facing custom domain that is your website. Meaning even while we have this on, there's no way for the public to get into the back end of WordPress because these are two completely separate sites with no commonalities. So yes, this is on temporarily. We're going to make changes, then we're going to publish those changes, which creates, it's the same as deploying the site. Those are synonymous here, publish changes, deploy site. And the public front end never experiences a different, nothing ever becomes dynamic for the front end website. I'm going to walk you through real quick what it's like to create a new WordPress site. And if you've ever used cPanel for creating a WordPress site, you'll know that there are a lot more options and things you have to fill out, choices to be made than what this provides. And so let's check it out. Let's just do test site. Let's do test site. Daniel, that'll work. And then let's just, we'll go ahead and generate a secure password. Install WordPress. That's it. That's all you have to do. And that's it. That's all you have to do. This site is being spun up by the server. And in a minute, we're going to be able to log in and have our brand new website where we can design. We have created a lot of websites using cPanel, and I can tell you right now, this is hands down the easiest experience you can possibly have for creating a brand new website in WordPress. So again, if you are brand new to creating WordPress websites, or maybe you've had one for a long time, but you're sick of maintaining it, as a small local business, this is the best platform you could use. So there you have it. This brand new blank site has been created on HardyPress, and it probably took it about 2 minutes to get it all up and running. And now we can just log in and start creating the site. Lastly, let's look at pricing for HardyPress. At the time of this recording, for a single site, you're looking at €4 a month, which turns out to be about $5 a month. That's when it's billed yearly, but it's only like $1 more billed monthly. So I'm telling you, you are having like a VPS type of server experience for the price of cheap shared hosting. There are frequently asked questions. You can check it all out, but here's what's included in that personal website. So real quick, let's just revisit the benefits of using a static WordPress host as compared to a traditional WordPress hosting environment. Number one, you're going to have a much easier user interface. Number two, no updating, no maintenance required. Number three, it's hacker-proof, it's secured, there's nothing to worry about. Number four, it's going to be greatly reduced spam, because in a second I'm going to tell you about using third-party contact forms and comment forms. Fifth, it has much faster page speeds because it already has caching at the server level and caching at the content delivery network level. It's already baked in, so you don't have to do any trial and error. And lastly, it's super affordable. A static WordPress site is not without the gotchas. There are caveats and things you have to consider before making this jump. So we're going to talk about that. Number one, just you have to understand that a static site means it's not dynamic. So you can have no public users logging in, creating accounts on the site. You can therefore have no users creating content on your site, whether those are blog posts or business listings or classified listings. None of that can happen. Additionally, you cannot use WooCommerce for an e-commerce platform. Now, if you still wanted to do e-commerce using a static WordPress site, that is possible. You just need to use a third-party e-commerce solution that gets integrated with this site so that those dynamic server interactions are happening completely separate from HardyPress. Third-party forms. Now, I've already hinted at this, and what this means is we're going to need a third-party solution to provide a contact form on our website if you need a booking calendar on your website, and also comment forms for blog posts if you want people to be able to comment on those. So we have a system that we use for all of our customers that provides our customers a CRM, a customer relationship management database. It allows for email marketing. It allows for a team to log in and view all of the records and interact with customers. So we have a very awesome proprietary system we use for that. In that system, it can create contact forms. It can create surveys. It can create booking calendars. And so that's what we use for all of those forms. When it comes to commenting on blog posts, we use a third-party tool called Commento. Commento has paid plans if you want their easiest solution, but they also have a self-hosted solution that gets very technical, and we set that up for our clients so that there are no ongoing fees. Another consideration for a static WordPress website is that when it comes to third-party embeds for dynamic content, such as an Instagram feed, a Facebook feed, a Twitter feed, you won't be able to use a WordPress plugin that provides for that. So instead, you're going to have to use any other sort of embed code that either those social networks provide or that some other tool is providing for those features. The last thing to consider for a static WordPress site is that since there is no cPanel, then there will be no emails hosted in a cPanel. Therefore, you have options here. You can either just sign up for Google Suite and have the best of email experience possible with the best email deliverability rates. That's what we recommend for all of our clients. Or you could purchase another cPanel on a different host, don't use it for websites, and only use it for their emails. So those are some options for you there. In closing, I want to just thank you for watching this video. I hope it was insightful, and I hope you get excited about the prospect of serving up a static WordPress site and not having to worry about maintenance and security and all of those headaches anymore. And a little bit about us at PagePerfect. We offer WordPress web design if you haven't guessed it yet. And that's going to include the full design, top to bottom, the design, the copy, the development, and the maintenance if we're not using a static host like this. Second, we offer search engine optimization as an ongoing service to our clients. And we have an excellent track record of getting our clients' products and services to show up on page 1 of Google. That includes local as well as national clients. If you have any questions about anything mentioned in this video, if you want to learn more about our customer relationship management solution that includes email marketing, text messaging, nurturing campaigns, and the whole 9 yards, please get in touch. Browse our website. We're here to help businesses like you succeed.